everyone, my name's Ali and welcome back to my channel, Mindful Living. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to grow kale indoors hydroponically. Over the last few weeks, I've been growing kale in my AeroGarden. This is a hydroponic garden that uses only water and nutrients to stimulate growth. In this video, I'll be sharing how my plant grew from seed all the way to harvest, so let's go ahead and get started. I started my kale from seed at the end of November, and the variety that I'm growing is Mackenzie's Dwarf Green Curled Kale. Once you sow your seeds, kale will typically take between 7 and 14 days to germinate. Mine did take about 7 days. After germination, this is what my plant looked like on day 7. Growth is a little slow initially as the plant is establishing its roots, so there's not as much leaf growth during this time, but my plant quickly took off. Normally, kale takes up to 75 days to reach maturity when growing in soil, but when you're growing it hydroponically in water, it matures a lot faster, and my plant was ready for harvest in about 55 days. So this is what my plant looked like after 2 weeks of growth, or about 16 days. I'm just going to show you the roots of my kale here. A great way to check on the health of your plant is to examine its roots. When growing hydroponically, the roots should appear a white to tan color, which indicates that your plant is healthy. Here's what my plant looked like on day 22. I'm only growing one kale plant in my 6-pod AeroGarden here, but you could also grow 2 in this size AeroGarden. I do have the slim model, so I just wanted to make sure there was enough root space to accommodate the large size of my kale plant. While it is a dwarf variety, I've grown this exact one in my container garden many times, and these plants tend to get quite large, which you will see later on in the video. Here we are at 30 days of growth, and the plant is already getting larger. There's lots of new leafy growth in the middle. Kale is a cool season crop, which means that it prefers cooler temperatures. When growing indoors, you want to maintain a room temperature of 60 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit for the best growth. Kale also requires plenty of sunlight, especially when growing indoors. If you're growing kale under a grow light, you'll need to provide between 12 to 15 hours of light each day. This is why I love growing in the AeroGarden, as it has an automatic timer. The light will turn on and off each day, providing your plant with the right amount of sunlight. Typically, my AeroGarden stays on for about 15 hours a day. So this is 40 days of growth. At this point, you can feel free to harvest off of your kale plant. For the sake of this video, I didn't harvest mine quite yet, but you can always harvest the larger outer leaves and just leave the new, smaller leaves to continue growing. Baby kale leaves are also more tender and they are less bitter, so if you're new to eating kale, you may want to harvest the leaves early. So here is 47 days of growth. The plant is quite large at this point. You can see here it is still putting out lots of new growth in the middle. So one thing I am going to mention here is that in order for your plant to grow properly in water, you need to provide it with regular nutrients. When growing in the AeroGarden, there is a light that will turn on to remind you to give your plant more nutrients. You'll need to provide your plant with nutrients every 2 weeks, and how much you need to provide will depend upon the size of your machine. I'm just quickly showing the roots here again, which are white and all appear really healthy. Of course, don't forget to continue to top up the water in your machine. If you're using an AeroGarden, there is a reminder to let you know your plant needs more water. I typically like to do this before the water light turns on, and I did find that my kale was drinking a lot of water, so I was topping it up every 2 to 3 days. And it's finally day 55, and I'm ready to harvest my plant. By this time, the plant has reached full size, and I'm going to be harvesting it using the cut and come again method. This is when you harvest the larger outer leaves and then leave the new growth in the middle to continue growing. By harvesting your plant this way, you're going to get multiple harvests. It'll continue growing and putting out new growth from the middle of the plant. You can also harvest the entire plant if you'd like to by cutting directly at the main stem. Kale is a nutrient-dense superfood. It's high in many vitamins, including vitamins A, C, and K. It's actually one of the most nutritious leafy greens you can add to your diet. It has a complex flavor profile with a slightly bitter taste and an earthy undertone. Kale differs from other leafy greens because of its unique ruffled leaves that provide a hearty texture and a crunchy bite. You can use kale in a variety of different recipes, add it into salads, smoothies, and green juices, or toss it into your soups and stews for a healthy addition. So this is the harvest that I got off my plant. There is a lot of kale here, so I'm going to use some of it and store some in my refrigerator. When storing kale, you want to put it in an airtight container or bag. I like to put in a piece of paper towel to absorb any excess moisture, and that helps the kale last even longer in the fridge. Make sure to remove any of the air before sealing, and then place it in your fridge for 5 to 7 days. Another option is to freeze your kale and place the bag in the freezer where it will last for several months. I hope if you guys enjoyed this video growing kale indoors, that you will leave me a like, leave me a comment down below, and let me know what else you'd like to see me grow in my AeroGarden. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of my future uploads. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.